So those are the things we're looking to see from the game, Vince. Let's get down to just quickly before we make our predictions. Let's get down to our keys to the game, right? Let's start on offense. I have 3 keys, right? I'm going to share them here real quick with you. Number 1, you got to get the run game going. And now, again, that doesn't mean you go 12, 13 personnel and do something within who you know you're going to be. More, 3 receivers, things like that. Yes, you're going to play some 12 personnel, but they were a heavy 11 personnel team against Florida State. Right. I think we're going to see that a lot. I'd like to see a little bit more 2 back. Now that you have Logan Diggs back, maybe you can do more of that because your depth chart's a little bit healthier, even though we're not going to see Sebo Flemister for the next 3 weeks. He won't play for the first 4 games of the year. Okay. He's not. Okay, so be prepared for that. But what are you going to see? What are you going to see from the run game, right? Because I think you do have to run the ball against Toledo. If you can't run a ball against Toledo, it doesn't get any easier the rest of the way. I mean, it just is not. So I want to see them get the run game going within the framework of who they are. If they're going 12, 13 personnel all day and that's the only way they can run, that's problematic because they can't do that all year. If they want to be the kind of offense that you need to compete for a championship. So that's one thing for me. I want to see them spread the ball around a little bit more this week. And again, that's not a complaint about last week because that's who was open. I mean, Austin was open. He was in one-on-ones. Mayer was open. Kyron was open. It's not a complaint. It's just more of a let's see them spread it around a little bit more. Get Lindsey involved. Get Avery Davis involved. Some of those things, right? What's wrong? Did you see a comment?
No. It's what I have as my second key is so similar to what you're saying. And it was just kind of making me laugh is all. Anyway.
And then my third one's finish off drives, right? You get across field, it's got to get 6. You got to at least get 3, but you need to be getting 6s. We could do it as it's the similar thought of what we had last week, which was start fast. But the problem is Notre Dame started fast. They just didn't finish. They were moving the ball early. They just couldn't finish off drives. They made mistakes to not finish off drives. So this week it's going to be finished. That means finishing off drives. That means when you have Toledo's a chance to just bury Toledo, you bury them. It means all-encompassing. Finish off blocks, finish off drives, and finish off Toledo. Those are my 3 keys for the Notre Dame offense.
Okay, my keys for the Notre Dame offense, my first one is an aggressive start. And you can say that that's start fast because that's kind of what I said last week, but it's more than that. It's more, be aggressive on the offensive line. We talked about that, firing off, imposing your will. I want to see that, but I also want to see them be aggressive in the pass game still. I still want to see them take those shots. If they got a one-on-one opportunity, take it. It's okay. It's okay to be a better team, right? And so I want to see that from the get-go. I want to see them be aggressive. I want to see them push the ball down the field, right? I want to continue to see that, right? So it's start aggressive. That is so important for me. And I could have put start aggressive, stay aggressive, right? Because I agree with you as far as they need a complete game from the offense. But it just aggressive start. My second one, and this is where I was kind of giggling a little bit, was I have get the slot involved. And that's very similar to your spread the ball around a little bit more. I want to see them get the ball spread around, and they didn't get it to the slot very much at all, really, in that game.
And again, I want to remind people, we're not complaining about that. Right? No, that's just how the game's going to go sometimes.
Absolutely.
Vince, can you explain? Because I want to make sure people understand this, because some people are going to hear like, oh, they're being critical. No, can you explain why it's important sometimes in games like this to say, hey, look, we need to make sure that so and so. Maybe we overemphasize getting such and such position, because you didn't say a player, you said a position.
Right.
Can you explain why that's important in a game like this?
Well, because you need to make sure that I'm trying to figure out how to verbalize this. You don't want to play with 10, right? I mean, you want to make sure that everybody's involved, but in you have to make sure that position is still being respected by the defense. Because if you're not getting that position involved, they're not going to worry about it. They're going to continue to do what they do, and then that's it. You want to make sure that there's a chance on every play that every position could get the ball. And so you want to make sure that not only this game, but then future games who are watching this film are noted, okay, whoa, wow, they didn't really need to go to the slot there, but they did, and that was dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, why I want to get all the positions involved, because that makes me more multiple offensively, and it makes me more dangerous because you don't know where I'm going to go with the football. And there's things you can do, because they clogged the middle, basically, is what Florida State did, and that kind of took away the slot, right? But there's things that you can do. For example, how Florida State scored that touchdown. They got their slot involved. They got him to the outside, which is where
and they created a used a formation to know that they were going to get that match in one of their two slots. They were going to get a one-on-one against Houston Griffin,
Correct.
and they wanted to go with that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's one of the way you manipulate your formation to get the matchup that you want. And they did, and they took advantage of it. So I want to see Notre Dame do some things like that to get the slot, whoever that happens to be, get that position a little bit more involved in what they're trying to do offensively. I guess I can't even read my own handwriting. My third key is stay balanced. And stay balanced in a good way. They were balanced last week with the attempt to run the football. They just weren't very good at it. I want them to stay balanced and productive at the same time. I want to see the run game get more production than they did. And obviously that has a lot to do with what the offensive line is doing, et cetera. But I want them to be more balanced from a production standpoint, not from a play calling standpoint, because they didn't abandon the run game last week.
25 carries between your top two backs.
They didn't abandon it. I just want them to be more productive in it. Right. And so those are my three offensive keys.
I want to add too on that last part about getting the slot involved. I think another part of it is you need to make sure that your players are engaged.
Well,
and if you go through 2-3 games where, hey, look, man, I'm out there busting my tail, I'm running routes, I'm getting open, and I'm not getting the ball, that can be frustrating. So when you have games like this where you can maybe force the issue at a certain position a little bit more, you take advantage. Because it's part one about making sure the defense knows, hey, we're going to throw to every position, so you got to cover them all. It's also, I think, about, hey, look, Avery, don't worry, you're our guy. That's how last week went. We need to make sure that you get him involved. Hey, Braden, don't worry, you keep running those goal routes because we're going to get you some shots. I wouldn't have a problem if on the first drive of the game they just said we're going to drop back and Jack drop back, hit that depth, and just take a shot to Braden. Unless they're like in too high, playing cover two,
right.
Take that shot. If they're in cover two, then honestly, you know what I wouldn't mind seeing? First play of the game, go 12 personnel and put Braden Lindsey and George Takis on one side of the field and run forwards. And if they're in cover two, you hit that seam route. If they're in cover, one or cover three, you just take your shot to hit. By the time you get top of your drop, you know where it's going. Hit one of them, because that's another position I'd like to see, kind of that number 2 tight end getting him a little bit more involved in the pass game.
Yeah, no love last week.
Yeah, I'd like to see that a little bit more too. So those are my keys.